Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. We have Lana, the lady lifter, as most people would know her on Instagram, coming to us all the way from Australia. Another Aussie on the podcast. I think it's about a dozen. I don't know. I'm going to have to, check my research on it. But yeah, always a pleasure to have him on. Like I told her before, it always freaks me out the time difference, how, she's a full day ahead of us, basically. And it scares me, but hey, it's part of it, I guess. But yeah, she's on here to share her health and fitness journey with us and to discuss all things health and fitness. Lana, thank you so much for coming on.
No worries. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, you are in Queensland, I should say, so that might be my first Queensland guest or not. I'm gonna have to figure it out because I don't know. I tried to get guests from all 50 states in the U.S. on. I'm gonna try to get them in like all provinces and states in Australia, and then all of them in England. So it's a journey that's going to be never ending, but I think I can maybe cross something off right there. But before we dive deep down into that tangent, why don't you, to start things off, give us your backstory on what inspired and motivated you to get in shape and how that led to where you're at right now?
Well, that actually started about 10 years ago. I used to drink a lot and smoke a lot and was very, very unfit and unhealthy. And I came across, I can't remember her last name, but the fitness athlete at Oksana. And I just thought, wow, that is an amazing physique. Like, that's beautiful. Um, but bodybuilding was definitely way, way beyond me. So I came from, as a child, being an avid equestrian, and then, becoming unfit and having children and everything else like that. So when I initially started training, I couldn't actually even do a body weighted squat, from a horse riding injury that I had on my leg. My whole leg had kind of atrophied, so I had to start there with not even being able to squat. So it was a very long process to get through to even being able to squat. And then a friend of mine took me to his gym where they had started doing strongman, and playing with some strongman implements and stuff like that. And I started playing around with those, and having grown up on a farm and doing equestrian, I was instantly pretty good at lifting very awkward objects. So I initially started out just taking that up as a sport for fun. Um, and I'm not sure if because you were mostly interviewing me about bodybuilding, weren't you?
No, we can talk about whatever you want to talk about. Are you kidding me?
Okay.
As long as it's not, I always say this before the podcast because it's the first time the audience here. As long as it's not like zombie lizard conspiracy theories, because I have my own podcast for that where I get into it. So I don't want to spoil here, but yeah, honestly, we're here to talk about anything. I mean, this is just that's just how we step in, is through the bodybuilding stuff. Then we can talk about whatever we want. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, good. Well, that's where all of that started. So that started about 10 years ago. And I just had a knack for strongman, and like we were discussing before the podcast started, I was terrible at dieting. So I get that. That was so bodybuilding was just like a quick thought and then out the window, because there's not a hope in hell I could diet or even train that hard, or I didn't think I could bring my legs up that much. So I did strongman for seven years, and during that time, I think I was multiple Queensland's strongest woman, Australia's strongest woman, Australasia's strongest woman, Southern Hemisphere's strongest woman. In 2015, I set a world record, or broke the world record, for heaviest Atlas stone ever lifted by a woman. So overall, and I did that as an under 82 athlete too. So I did it.
How heavy was the stone?
At that time, it was 138 kilos.
Jesus.
So, I mean, that was pretty cool. As to my knowledge, for standard strongman lifts like that, I'm the only Australian to have ever held an all-time world record. So that was awesome. What actually got me into strongman was when I did the first official, like, inaugural Australia's Strongest Woman. And the first day on the first event was a 300 kilo yoke carry, and I did something to my back, and I ate a bunch of painkillers, as you do as strongman, and I went through the whole day and the second day and won. But I had actually herniated a disc in my back, which somehow it was extremely painful then. But 2 days later, when I was mowing my lawn on my ride-on mower, it prolapsed, and I ended up just for the time being, practically paralyzed on the mower. I couldn't move. I was in so much pain, and then I couldn't walk for a week after that and had to do a bunch of rehab. And I didn't want to move away from training because it had become such a lifestyle. So I was, and I was unhappy with how I looked because strongman had just become a sport of just get heavier, more mass moves mass. um, so I decided to approach a good friend of mine who trained out of the same gym, and he was a pro bodybuilder at the time, so Mike Debenham, about doing bodybuilding for a year or a year and a half. And so that's kind of how I slipped into that. And although that whole prep was incredibly hard, actually, and I was not an amazing bodybuilder by the end, but the transformation was fantastic. And just all of the isolation work that I had never done with my strength training. I then, I competed in my first bodybuilding show, and I think I podiumed by default. um, then I came back because I was invited to Southern Hemisphere's Strongest Woman, in the best shape of my life, like the fittest, the strongest, with like the least amount of body fat that I had ever competed in strongman. And respectively, like against the two biggest competitors was Nicole Jenrich, who had won the Arnold's Australia, and oh my god, I'm gonna have a mental blank. Beautiful, beautiful girl, New Zealand's strongest woman. I just can't remember her name right now. Yeah, and managed to win that show as well, and then I just retired. I just needed that one to come back and prove that I could still do it, and I wasn't broken officially, and then that was enough.
How did you deal with the transition of the strongman, basically diet and workout, to going to bodybuilding? Because they're completely different.
It was the first time was so hard. Like I made so many mistakes. Because the thing is, when you change and you find a good coach, you just need to listen to what your coach says and follow their plan and ignore everything else. Because everyone will always go on about, oh, it's just calories in versus calories out, and it's not. It's the quality of that food that has so much more of an effect on how much body fat you lose and how much water you retain. The diet was so hard, and unbeknownst to me, I had like really really unhealthy, like kind of gut, just an unhealthy gut. Like it wasn't, and so I spent years recently working on that, which has made the world of difference. But yeah, and the training, like you go from this efficient strength training and efficient lifting where you're utilizing every muscle to lift something, to isolation where it's you don't want to use every muscle, you just want to isolate this one area. And you're so weak doing that. So you go from being so strong to just stupid weak, and it can take a lot to go back to being able to isolate a muscle to do one thing instead of lifting it efficiently like you have been for the past 7 years.
How hard was that to not just max out on everything, being that you're just so used to that strongman training?
Oh, it's so hard. But
Yeah. I mean, yeah, they are just two completely opposite. Nutrition wise, how was that?
oh yeah, that's been a huge flip, and like the best flip for me, I think, just in general, just for my health, because strongman was such a just eat more food and be like, oh, I haven't eaten enough food today. I'm gonna have some Ben and Jerry's. Like, oh, I could have another type of Ben and Jerry's. um, where and like my pre workout for Australia's Strongest Woman was like half a tub of Blue Ribbon ice cream, which it's got all the right things in it for energy, I guess. But yeah, whereas nowadays I don't miss ice cream. I don't miss any of these things. Like I make healthier versions myself. Yeah, but it has been a big change, and if I had to follow the diet I follow now, back then, not a chance in hell. Like it's been gradual. Like every year and every off season, I've just gotten better and stricter and better at making these yummier things in a healthier way. So yeah, big changes.
I mean, that's astronomical. And you're probably one of a few dozen that I've had on that either started in, powerlifting or strongman competitions and then went to bodybuilding where it's, yeah, the changes are ridiculous. But I told you I was going to ask this question before because I love genetics and, as much as I could train, I could not look like someone else. I'm 6'3", so I'm already not going to be blessed with legs. That's my biggest pet peeve right there. But what was one body part when you were getting started that really, really took off where you can just look at it and it grows? And then what was one body part that you've just had to drag behind as you've gone on in the sport?
Oh, God, I don't know. My back has always been quite muscular. Like, I've definitely had to work on shape now coming in for bodybuilding. But yeah, instantly, I just always had a muscular back, and that is definitely genetics. Like, I've dragged my mother into bodybuilding, and she's 64.
Might have
Yeah,
to have her on the podcast then. Geez, 64-year-old? You kidding me?
and she looks incredible. And like, because she's under
You're
the
gonna have
same
to
coach.
send me a photo when we're done talking about
I
this,
will, I
and
will,
I'll
I will.
have the photo pop up when you're talking right now. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. And it's just that's the genetics, like, and it's the same with my brother and sister. Even though my brother doesn't train that much, my sister never trains. The ability to put on muscle is not. It's like, it's still hard and it still takes work, but it seems to come a lot easier. Whereas my sister went to Canada and did a ski season over there and had to shovel snow and came back jacked, like big biceps and everything. Like, didn't try at all. my brother
I'm in
spent
that area, and I can tell you, shoveling snow is the best back workout you will ever get in your entire life, and that's something that you Australians will never understand. But trust me, it is.
Yeah. It's like my brother's like not training at all, and is still just muscular, like big muscle bellies, like doesn't do a thing. And my mother was a world title holder outrigger for quite some time before she moved to bodybuilding. So we're all quite athletic, I guess.
Pardon me for my dumbness, but what's an outrigger?
So like it's also called dragon boats. It's kind of like rowing, but then they have the one paddle. Yeah.
Oh, so her
So
back must have just been absolutely shredded because those are like
her
that's
back
that's
was, yeah,
ridiculous.
pretty big anyway. So then, yeah, my coach put up comparison pictures of us next to each other because we both competed in the same season, and it's like, well, that's genetics. So I've been lucky with that.
I was gonna say my favorite thing to ever use in the gym is the rowing machine. When I was growing up, that was like the only thing that I would use when I was like pretty young, because I just love doing that. And yeah, that is the key to a nice back there, I will say myself. But yeah, that's coming from that family. I mean, yeah, genetics, they mean quite a bit. And yeah, it is tricky how it is. And I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I talked to a 60-year-old bodybuilder earlier this week, and they are the most inspiring ones to me. Like the 50s, 60s, 70s, just they're the most inspiring. So kudos to your mom. That is great. I mean, make sure that she doesn't fall off track, and push her back in the right direction every once in a while. But yeah, they are the most inspiring. They are the most inspiring ones to me by far. It's just to see what they can do and prove that you can get in shape at any age. But I mean, we already talked about it a little bit, but the diet is one of the biggest misconceptions I think that the general public just doesn't understand, is just how much food you're going to have to eat, even when you're slimming down for a show, and just the nutrition in general. And even when you were getting started in strongman, what was probably some of the biggest nutritional changes that you were just shocked by, or that you had a hard time adjusting with? Because everyone struggles at first.
Yeah, I didn't realize the amount of protein I had to eat,
Yeah.
to be honest. Like, so that was a big thing. Yeah, definitely didn't realize the amount of protein I had to eat. The rest of it, like with strongman, it was just calories. Very uneducated opinion, uneducated diet there, but did look at how much protein I was supposed to eat, and 2 grams per kilo body weight. It's a lot of protein, and at the moment I eat between 2 and 3 grams, so I eat even more.
I mean, yeah, it's the food bills, good God, everyone out there. I mean, if we want to talk about expensive, I've seen some of the guests even showed me their last food receipt, and it's like, okay, these people gotta we gotta find some other way there. Either you guys, I honestly think bodybuilders should just become farmers and just start growing their own stuff, whatever, because that's really what it's gonna eventually, have to take. But you talked a
Well,
little bit
in
about,
my house too,
yeah,
like, so my husband's also a bodybuilder.
okay. Oh dear God, his food bill must be twice yours.
It's huge. And then my son is also, so genetics again, an absolute amazing athlete. Like, he's only 10, but he's an absolute giant. And yeah, what does he do at the moment? He's playing for
What are you feeding those kids? Jeez.
chicken. Chicken. And no, so the main parts of our diet are, yeah, chicken breast and steak. So, and steak is expensive. So, like, I go and buy budget whole rumps, and then, yeah, we'll cut it in half, and we'll have one roast and a bunch of steaks. I get all of my food, so I have an ABN, and I get all of my food through like a wholesaler supplier. So I can buy like bulk egg whites, bulk chicken, and so bulk vegetables. But yeah, it's crazy. There's always food in the house because we just will cook 4 kilos of chicken breast at a time, and then there's a container in the fridge of chicken breast, and it makes everything easy. It makes dinners easy, and then there's that whole roast that's sliced up and in the fridge. So, but that's like a weekly thing.
So your son is that one kid where everyone else is like, "Oh, I had, pizza last night. I had a birthday cake or whatever." And your son's like, "Yeah, I had chicken and steak, basically." So, hey,
Yeah,
nice.
but he's because it's he's been around this his whole life.
Yeah.
He loves it. He wants to be in the gym. He wants to be doing things. They and like he's also allergic to wheat. And as a 10-year-old
Oh,
child, no, but he's like, kids will have birthday cakes. He's like, no, I can't have that. It's got wheat in it. Like he has that self discipline. Like I'm not there telling him that he can't have it, and it's just like an allergy hay fever reaction. But he's like, no, I can't eat that. It's not healthy anyway.
I was gonna say otherwise I'd be like, get the hospital on the line right now. But I'm gonna eat this. We're just gonna prepare ahead of time. But yeah, that is insane. And I just said that because like I had one kid growing up too who the same thing. His dad was a bodybuilder. His mom did a little bit of it too. Where like I would hate sleepovers at his house because literally we're like, what are we gonna have to eat today? We're gonna get pizza or anything like that? And they're like, oh no, we got some chicken for you guys and we got some broccoli and and we're just like,
Yeah,
look at
but
him. We just look at him like, what is wrong with you people?
he loves that and he'll eat
Yeah.
that. But he knows if he has friends over, or even better still, for everyone in the house, when I get closer to prep, the way I deal with not being able to eat the delicious food is still making the food that I want to eat. So then the food just gets more and more ridiculous. There's more things that are covered in cheese. There's more things that are fried. Like it's crazy. And I don't eat any of it and it smells amazing, but then everyone else gets to eat it.
See, this is what I don't get. How do you have that mental strength? Where do you think it comes from to not do that? Because for me,
No,
that would be the downfall.
I think it's been just a developed thing. I don't like. I definitely didn't. I remember my first bodybuilding prep. I think we're out fishing for my now husband's birthday, and I took a bunch of snacks for everyone, and then I was like silently in the back of the car whilst no one was looking, like shoving these biscuits into my face, and I couldn't stop. Like it was the worst. Like I've never binged on food like that before ever, and it was uncontrollable. I think I ate all of them. Um, so and definitely regretted that. It's just a developed discipline. Like anything, it just takes time of doing it the right way and getting your results, and then realizing that if you just stick to it, it will work.
That's what I love so much about this lifestyle and the people that do it is because yeah, it's not going to happen overnight. It's dedication upon
But it's
dedication upon dedication, and
really hard.
yeah, and so that's why like if you see someone who looks like you, you're like that they put in work. You know that they don't just go to the gym once a week and then just. I mean, if you were the most genetically blessed person, I would kick you off the podcast right now because I would just be like, okay, I don't want to talk to you because I've had two of them on where like I was that close to kicking them off because they were just like they were those people who they would just laugh and they would get abs basically, and then you're just
I hate this.
the worst people on the planet. Yeah, they are horrible people. Again, if you're single, those might be the people that you want to have kids with because then if they those genetics, I mean, they need to be passed down. But like that is just absolutely insane. But posing is the number one thing that I never understood was so hard until I started
Oh,
having bodybuilders on, and
me
now.
neither.
Yeah, and now for so many people, they say it's harder than the nutrition, it's harder than the working out. What has been your experience with posing?
It's it actually just takes. You need to. It's like anything. It needs practice, and you need to become conditioned to do it. It's there's the thing that we refer to like posing fitness. Like especially when you come back off your off season because you haven't been posing. Because why would you? Because you kind of look a bit fluffy and you don't want to look at it. And your posing fitness is out the window. You can't even get through like your quarter turns without huffing and puffing and feeling awful. And it's just holding that perfect frame for whatever given time you're told to, with all of your muscles on, and trying to complement your own shape the best way you can. It is really, really hard. I went down to Brisbane one time where we catch up with the other Australia's strongest women. So there's Lucia and Nicole, and we decided to put each other through a bunch of things. So Lucia was big on CrossFit, so we did a CrossFit workout. Nicole's from the army, so she bought some emergency kit bags of like army food, which tasted awful.
Oh,
Um,
MREs are horrible. I've tried them
oh,
once. They are. I mean, how the army still has people in it after forcing them to eat that is just beyond me.
it's disgusting. And then for the final part, I put them through some posing rounds, and they were dying. And it just goes to show that the level of posing fitness, like you have to practice that. You can't incorporate that from anywhere else. It's very, very difficult.
What was it like for you doing CrossFit? Because someone of your size, that must be kind of hilarious to see them try to do CrossFit.
Look, it was okay, because the weights weren't too bad, but yeah, I definitely wouldn't do it again.
Being 6'3", I hit my chin on the bar trying to do those kipping pull-ups because I'm just too tall for CrossFit. It just wasn't. So then I'm like, yeah, this is done. And then you realize that a lot of them are on the shorter side too, which goes along with bodybuilding as well. But that's something that I found out as well. But with the poses that you do, what is your favorite pose and what is your least favorite pose?
Ooh, I don't know. I think one of my favorite poses, I can send you a picture, is like where I kind of down on one knee and I have like an arm up like
Oh,
this.
okay.
Yeah, it's really, really pretty. My least favorite pose is probably just my front, maybe front relax or front double bicep, and it's just because genetics again, but also so genetically a big reason I was good at strongman is because I am quite thick through the waist. Like I have a thick waist and I have the ability to develop, really, really strong obliques. Not ideal for bodybuilding because you want to have that V taper. So I've been working and working and working on that to try and bring that in. But I still look quite blocky just in those because they're straight on poses. You can't really tweak them to work it in your favor. So I still look a little bit blocky with that. So I'm just working on those. So I don't like those poses, but you have to do them.
600 guests, and you're only the third person who the front double by is their least favorite pose. So you are in a class less than 1%, everyone. So hey, that takes a special thing. I mean, the vast majority, it's always the ab and thigh pose because it's just such an unnatural pose and it's hard to get it down. But I do gotta say, because you were going from strongman training, which is not focused, like you talked about, not focused at all really on time under tension and that mind to muscle connection. How hard was that to develop that? Or was it because you already had a background in at least training, it wasn't that hard? Or what was that like going from to learning the mind to muscle? Because for so many people starting out, that takes years for people to develop.
Yeah, yeah. I think it did take a while for me to figure out how to get my body to respond because it wouldn't. Like I could do things really heavy and but I wouldn't be targeting what I needed to target. And what I had to do was drop the weights all the way down in these isolation movements and do sets of like 20, 30, 40 until just that one little muscle was dying. And then eventually bring that weight up and bring those reps down a little bit. But yeah, if I tried to just pick up something heavy and move it, which I could, it would not give me the isolation that I needed to develop just that one muscle. So yeah, that's how I worked that.
Well, you talked about the injuries you've had too. How have you had to mix up your training to deal with that? Because any bodybuilder goes through injuries really, but when you do the strongman thing into it, the moment you said that in my head, I was thinking like, oh God, she must just like, she must just like almost be dead inside.
It's not too bad. In strongman, I really only had that one injury, which was a back injury. And then as soon as I could get, as soon as I could get walking around my house. No, not that early, but because I was walking around my house with like a little broomstick handle because I couldn't actually stand up straight or anything. But as soon as there was the ability to start moving almost normally, I did a lot of hanging to help really stretch out my spine and yeah, just started all over again, with down on hands and knees and lifting your arm, lifting your leg and trying to get back all through those movements again. And then, yeah, I think that took about 4 or 5 months before I was confident in kind of lifting something again. And it was just all programmed and calculated. So even though I'm very capable of, or strength wise, capable of lifting very heavy, it was super light deadlifts. And then as soon as it got to a point where like there was no pain and they were easy, it was the same weight but banded deadlifts. So a lot of banded exercises to really try and bring that strength back. And I haven't had any issues since. So hopefully I did a good job.
Hey, that's great because for the amount of guests, like I said, like a dozen or so that have done that, most of them, yeah, they have a lot of problems dealing with that. But also, you're not the average looking woman. If you were to go out in public dressed the way you are right now, you are going to get stares just because it's human nature when they see something out of the normal, just be like, oh, what is that? Obviously, you were probably getting them before when you were a strong man anyway, just because of the way that you look doing that anyways. But How do you deal with that? And is it still weird to you at times that like you draw more people's attention, or is it you've just gotten used to it? Where do you fall on that?
It just depends on how I feel too. Like so, it's like if I don't want to be stared at, I'll just wear extra clothes. But especially after doing a show when I'm really really jacked and everything, it's like I'll wear the cute little top and nice clothes,
You
and then
got to
it's
show
like,
it off. Let's be honest. Like, come on
yeah,
now. Yeah.
I'm definitely proud of what I've done. But it's funny because I went out with my 16-year-old daughter after my last show, and she just got so offended on my behalf because people were staring. And I'm like, don't worry about it. It's like, I don't care. She's like, oh, it's just the way that some of them stare at you. I'm like, who cares? I'm like, they're jealous, they don't approve. I don't care. It was cute, but yeah, it can be interesting. I generally don't get too much negativity either online or in person. So, but I mean, that's always your perception too. If people are staring, I just assume they're admiring it, and that's where I leave it. Like I don't go, oh, they think I'm disgusting or anything like that. It's just, oh, okay, cool. They're admiring my muscles. Awesome.
That's like even if I see like a really jacked guy or gal in the gym, I always tell myself it's like, okay, we're gonna do 4 stairs at probably like a second a piece when they're not looking because you just want to be respectful. So you're just like down, down, down. You're like, okay, they're focused on the set. Just look once, then you're down, 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 and then yeah, that's about it. Because when I was in really good shape in college too, I sometimes would get the stairs. But again, this was the college years, Ryan Johnson. I was vain, so I'd be like, oh my god, this is awesome. But then it gets old after a while. Let me tell you. But just going on stage, what is that moment like for you when you finally get to walk up on stage and show off all that hard work that you've worked months upon months on?
It's awesome. Like it's just such a fun experience because by that stage, you're about to walk on stage. You've had a bunch of food, like you've been carb loading, like you feel great. You might be a little bit thirsty, but you feel great, and you've just pumped up. So it's just such a fun final, just cherry on top to the whole prep. And especially when you walk out there and the crowd is engaging. There's nothing worse than walking out and having a full crowd and you're posing and it's like crickets. But you walk out and people do it. Like
That would be horrible.
I was at a show the other weekend, last weekend, the weekend before, to support a bunch of friends of mine, including my coach. But then other people were coming out, and they might not have looked so great, and maybe they didn't have anyone in the audience, but it was like crickets. So I'm just like, yes, I have no idea who you are, but go you. And it started people like also getting involved. It's like, yeah, they're up there wearing basically nothing, and they've worked their asses off. Just applaud them. So yeah, walking out and having the crowd behind you is just fantastic. I think was it last year when I walked out, might have been my first show I did with NABA, and my music and routine was the choreography was really well timed to where I went into this back rear double bicep pose as the kind of music came up and it went into a bit of a screamo type thing. And it was fantastic and the crowd loved it, and that makes it really fun, like when you can hear them like cheering and clapping and you're just like, yes, nailed it.
Oh yeah, that adrenaline would take me to the moon basically if I found out that the crowd was really approving and such. And now my favorite question to ask, what is your go-to post-show meal?
My go-to pose.
No, post-show meal.
Oh, post show meal. Oh, I'm getting better at picking things that don't make me sick. um, so, but I'll always just find some kind of amazing restaurant. So, like 2 years ago, we found Milky Lane, which is like it's just a burger joint, but they do incredible burgers and these amazing sides. Like there'd be like deep fried macaroni and cheese ball things, and so we went there one year, and I got the biggest burger that they had, which was like freaking ginormous. And everyone went around and ordered, and they're like, "Oh, would you like anything else?" I'm like, "Yes, I would like one of every single side that you make. Thank you." And they're like, "What?" I'm like, "Yes, you heard me. One of everything." So that made me incredibly sick. And then last year we found like a smoked meat house, where they do a bunch of different smoked meats, and it's like we all went there, and they did these massive share platters. It's like 2 to 3 people. So we all got one each, and and ate all that, and also felt really sick. So it's just I'm trying to select slightly better things. But yeah, it's you just keep searching for the perfect place to go afterwards, and then that's it.
I mean, this podcast really should just be called Trial and Error because that is the mantra of this entire lifestyle. You will
It
always
is,
be searching for more stuff, but yeah,
yeah,
it's never ending. But how do you deal with that off-season look? Because a lot of people struggle with that. You know, a lot of body dysmorphia in the sport, and especially when you get as lean down as you get for a show, a lot of people just have a hard time getting away from it.
yeah. Look, I think I might deal with it a little better. Um, because I went kind of reverse to a lot of people I know, where I did strongman, I did powerlifting one time, um, and now I've come into bodybuilding. So it's like even in off season where I'm like, oof, I don't think to myself I look fat. I know it's bodybuilder fat. It's not real life fat, um, but I still look so much better than what I did. And if I ever have any doubts or worries or anything, it's like I just do a comparison picture of how I look now versus how I look during strongman, and how much happier I am with those improvements. Um, and yeah, I don't really think too much more on it. Like it can be annoying, especially right towards the end of off season, where I'm like kind of just chomping at the bit at my coach. I'm like, can we cut yet? Can we cut yet? Like, come on. um, but yeah, it's really not too bad. This off season has been a lot cleaner as well. So there was a lot less cheat meals. If I just kind of got a bit more relaxed on, I'm not going to weigh my steak. I'm hungry. I'm going to have a big steak. So it's not like I suffered either. I just didn't go out and shove food in my face. So I've definitely started out at a much better place than this time last year, for instance. Like this time last year, I think I was 21% body fat, and now I'm 19. I had, was it 64 kilograms of lean muscle mass. Now I have 66. So, I mean, I'm definitely shifting the right direction just by having a better planned off season instead of just going silly with it.
Well, speaking about better plan, my least favorite word on the planet is cardio. I hate it more than life itself. And when it comes to cardio, I go for walks. That's all I do. I mean, you're never going to see me run. It's ridiculous. Being that you were a strongman and now a bodybuilder, what is your relationship with cardio like?
I also hate cardio. Most of my cardio is just fasted cardio, and it's just walking. That's all I do is walk. If I'm feeling extra good, I might do some sled push and drag or something for some higher intensity. But yeah, you won't catch me running anytime soon. I used to run, but no.
How do you keep yourself entertained on the treadmill? Because that's my biggest struggle.
I don't use the treadmill. I go for a walk outside.
Okay, good. Because now, unfortunately, living in Minnesota, 7 months out of the year, 8 months out of the year, it's going to be, it's too cold to walk outside for me. So I do have to do the treadmill, where it's like I have gotten to the point where I've seen too many movies and TV shows where like I literally ran out of stuff. So,
Well, watching podcasts is good. So
yeah.
I can watch a podcast or two, or because occasionally I do get stuck on a treadmill, or I just end up on TikTok. So
yeah. I normally just download a podcast and I just listen to the whole thing while I'm walking outside then, but inside, I can't listen to something where I'm not like visibly like making progress doing something. Cause like if you just walk on treadmill, you're not like walking past trees, you're not walking past stuff. I don't know. I'm weird. Like the more you get to know me, the more you're like, okay, there's just a tiny bit off where there's just a little something about him where it's just like, I'm peculiar like that. I will say, but sleep also, the bags under my eyes, you can see like, we could have done this yesterday at 2 a.m. and I probably could have done it, but it was like, I do not want to have to suffer through it and have to do that. But what do you like when it comes to sleep? Because I'm making a chart of my guest response and so many people are hit or miss.
Okay. I'm pretty good. I'm 8 hours a night, so I'll be in bed by 9:30. Sorry. I tend to sleep pretty well, which is good. But I will only drink 1 or 2 coffees a day before lunchtime. I don't use pre-workouts. I don't use energy drinks. All of these things do affect how you sleep. The occasional time where I have used a pre-workout or had a coffee later than lunchtime, I've slept like shit the next, like that following night. So I'm also, I'm just very, very careful with not consuming too much caffeine and ensuring that I get adequate rest.
Yeah, I could never do pre-workout. You can already tell I'm hyper enough. My head would probably explode. So it's not. That's just honestly not going to happen. But if someone were to walk up to you and say, Lana, we made the decision. You can change one thing about the sport of bodybuilding, and everyone would go along with it. What would be one thing that you'd like to see changed? And if it's more than one, you can do more than one. Obviously, absolutely.
I could change one thing. My God. Um, I mean, I feel like it's changing now already, but just definitely judging more to divisions criteria. There was a big problem, especially in Australia, over the last few years, where the leanest person would win. And it's like that the leanest person wouldn't necessarily be the division's criteria. They wouldn't meet that, but they would be the leanest person. So like that's definitely changing, and things I'd like to see change are changing, and not awarding that excessive PED abuse, and that is also changing. We saw it recently at the show that I was at, where a gentleman who is a mass monster, but may have possibly abused those things, did not place very well.
That's something that I've been seeing as well, especially in the last, few years as well. And I've been the few guests from Australia that I have talked to, they say that like there isn't that many shows when it comes to bodybuilding in Australia. Has there been more as time has gone on, or is there still not that many shows?
No, there's not really. So your main player here is the IFBB Pro League. NABA has tried to make a comeback, but now there's not going to be a show in Queensland because that's kind of fallen over. So I don't really know what's going on there. And then you've got all of your natural shows, and I'm going to say natural shows, where I'm all for those shows, don't get me wrong.
Unless they test them right before they walk on stage, I'm not convinced.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'm all for, like, some people just need that space to compete because they don't want to do other things, which is completely fair, but it needs to be fair. So yeah, not a huge fan of those federations either because they don't test. And the people that are winning are looking leaner and more conditioned than the majority of IFBB competitors, and it's like, well,
I was shocked because I have a lot of natural compares on because it's a niche that I like to endorse as well because not everyone has to do all that stuff. But I was shocked when I learned how little they actually test at the show. Like you would think that they would be testing them like every day for like a week before they go on there, but it's like
it's too expensive.
Yeah, I know. I was shocked when I learned that too. So I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. But before we wrap things up, you have trophies behind you. That's awesome. What is the biggest one on the right? The one that looks like a whole goblet, basically. What's that one?
Oh, let me get it.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Like this one.
Yeah. Oh no, or even or the one down below too. Either way, I can't see it up top. It's cut off up top, but yeah, you can bring it down.
I'll show you my favorite ones.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. Oh. If you can see that one.
Heck? Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, that one's for Southern Hemisphere. It's dusty. It's for Southern Hemisphere Strongest Woman.
You need to polish that every month. What are you doing?
I'm terrible. Hang on, let me try and put this somewhere.
Oh, no problem.
Because there's that one that's cool. This one's like, I have way too many.
Oh yeah, that's a bad thing.
Sorry. So that was the NABA.
Oh, that's awesome.
State championship physique, and
did you drink out of it?
No.
Oh, come on.
This one, because you can't see this one because it's up above. So this was the Miss Physique Australia.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that one's huge. So that was for the NABA Federation as well.
Did they give you any swords? Because I know in America that's a huge thing. They give out swords for some weird reason.
No, I didn't get swords. But I have a crown. So I mean,
that's worth it. That is awesome.
No, so that was really cool.
Yeah. So swords must just be like a North America thing because it's weird because I see all these guests and they have these swords on them. First of all, it's cool, but I was like, why are you awarding bodybuilding shows with swords? It's completely not a part of it. But hey, I guess it is. And I would love to have you back on in a year to talk about what you've been up to and where you're going. If if you had a crystal ball, where would you like to be at a year from now? What are some goals that you'd like to have achieved when we talk to you in a year?
Oh, a year from now. Look, I'd like to win every show that I do this year. Because I won 3 out of 4 last year. I'm probably only going to do 2 this year, but I'd like to win both of them. And then maybe, I don't know, I'm contemplating doing some back-to-back seasons. So I may do season B and then come straight into season A, which will be fun because that'll be with my husband. So he'll be doing season A. So we'll see if that can work.
Doing preps together, that's God bless you. I don't know.
Look, I thought I was just, I was thinking the same. I'm like, that would be near impossible. But
Are your kids basically going to be babysitting you guys then, I guess?
That's it. But good friends of ours, so Mandy and Darcy, have just, like, they've still got nationals next week, but they've just done season A together. And they've got children and stuff like that, and they've loved it, and they've said that it's been easier because they're both eating the same things and they're both being disciplined, and like it's not so hard having to sit there and watch your partner, eat a burger and chips and whilst you're nibbling on chicken and veggies.
So first of all, winning 4 shows out of 5 is incredible. But that one show that you lost, what was the feedback that they gave you?
That my silhouette, so the shape, so the waist was a bit blocky and it didn't come up because my back is large. But like I said, I still need to work on the shape because I've never had to have really big lats. So, it is, considering how large my back is, that my lats are too small. So they weren't wrong. Like, the feedback was correct. But yeah, I'm just really lacking that kind of silhouette shape of, a bit more V-taper and just bigger lats coming out into triceps. So we've been working on that. It's looking much better. So we'll see how that goes. I can't say I'm really chasing a pro card. There's not a lot of pro shows in Australia. There's supposed to be some. So I wouldn't want to be chasing that right now. I just want to be a really good amateur.
Yeah, and that's a great goal to have. And lastly, for anyone who's thinking about maybe getting in the health and fitness lifestyle and bodybuilding, what would be a piece of advice that you'd like that you could give them?
Just start. Just do it, because the time will pass anyway. Like, I literally, on my Facebook memories just the other day, and I put it in my Instagram story, it popped up of me stating on my Facebook 10 years ago that I'm going to start making changes. I'm going to quit smoking. I'm going to, not drink so much. And it's just a matter of starting. So just start doing it.
What was harder, quitting smoking or preps?
Quitting smoking was harder.
Okay. Because I've heard people say that both are so hard, and I'm like, okay, we got to figure out which one is. So we heard from her, at least quitting smoking was harder, which, hey, more power to you for that. That is amazing. And honestly, for me, if you're really getting serious, obviously you should probably find a coach, because too many times I've heard people that try to do it by themselves, and I'm just like, oh, you poor thing. Good luck to you, but they take so much weight off your shoulders, literally and figuratively, probably. So
absolutely, but not everyone can afford that, and I definitely couldn't at the start. So just, this is what blows my mind. It's like, people ask me questions like, you have access to Google. You have ChatGPT now. ChatGPT is absolutely insane, the things that you can get out
I have
of that.
never got into that because I'm too scared of what could actually. I've never downloaded it. No.
It's a whole rabbit hole that you've
AI
got to go
AI
down.
scares the crap out of me.
No, it is amazing. And just for instance, so something that if I had to do myself would have taken me hours to figure out was a diet. I literally chucked into ChatGPT, like, make me a diet with 2,500 calories, with 300 grams of protein, that is gluten-free, wheat-free, and has gut health, prebiotics in mind, and it spat out this diet that was pretty much almost correct, instantly. That people have the access to things like this, ChatGPT and Google. Yes, if you can afford a coach, definitely have a coach. Especially if you want to get serious. But if you're just trying to get a bit healthier, you can find these things out yourself. You can educate yourself.
Once it gets to a point where I can literally just download it and say, hey, I'm interviewing so-and-so, what are some questions I would say? And then it gives me 50 questions, then I'll use it. But, up until...
it will. No,
I know, but that's crazy. That's what I'm thinking about. So, I'm just crazy about asking, because, this is a popular pod. We're about almost 10,000 subscribers. I'm just afraid to ask, like, hey, what's DD on the spot? And then just having them list my entire life, or like having me list this, that would scare me too much. Where I'd be like, okay, this is weird. But yeah, that is.
Well,
Oh, go ahead.
I don't think ChatGPT has access to the internet right now. It's just,
Yet.
yet, but it's just data that it's been
Okay.
taught. So, I mean, it is incredible to play with, though. It really is.
I mean, I honestly wish I was in school at this point because I would never do any homework myself then, because then you just use that. But
I need
that's
to. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
If only that could have been around in my time. But again, Lana, I cannot thank you enough for coming on and sharing your journey with us. It was an absolute delight, and I appreciate you doing the time difference, even though it was 6 a.m. at your time. Which, by the way, there's no way in hell I'm ever getting up that early for anything. Even if my house.
I was already up. I'd
Oh,
already been for a walk and had breakfast.
what the hell? Yeah, so like my house would have to be on fire, and even then it would be a coin flip as to whether or not I'm waking up or not. Just be like, oh well, it was a good life. I'm not going to interrupt my sleep for that. But again, that's the willpower that I just do not possess, and these guests do, which makes them great athletes that they are. But again, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, everyone, this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing off. Have a great day, everyone.